Thinking about moving to Atlanta, but you're not sure if buying a home is still possible? Let's talk about whether or not it's too late to buy a home in Atlanta, Georgia. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Lots of people lately have been asking, is it still a good time to buy a home here in Metro Atlanta? Are we headed for a market crash? Really, a lot of people are trying to figure out, have we kind of missed the window for being able to buy a home? So let's break it down. Of course, if you're thinking about moving to Atlanta or any of the suburbs around the city of Atlanta, feel free to call or text me, email me anytime. Thank you so much to everyone who has reached out. I'm always happy to help. At the time of filming this video, interest rates are as high as like 6.5%, which is a huge difference compared to the 3% that we were seeing about a year ago. As the Fed has raised the prime interest rates, mortgage rates have also gone up. So 6.5% really means that a lot of people who were able to afford a mortgage a year ago are unfortunately no longer able to afford a mortgage. And so that's the main reason why we see so many less buyers in the housing market today than we did a year ago. In addition to that, another thing that we're still seeing is that sellers are still thinking that it's like the market of last year. So sellers are still trying to get the most for their home. They're trying to get the same amount that their neighbor got a year ago. So this is leading to a lot of price reductions as sellers are seeing that they can't quite get the same amount as they could a year ago. But what this also means is that sellers are kind of in a bind because now interest rates are really high and sellers are asking more for their home than it's worth. And so that really doesn't paint a really good picture for buyers. It really makes it very difficult for buyers to get a good deal. So very often when buyers are out looking for a new home, there's like this disconnect between what a buyer is trying to get and what a seller is expecting. A buyer is trying to get an interest rate that is not crazy high and trying to find a home that is affordable and not at the top of the market because the market certainly has shifted. And sellers are still trying to get the most for their home. So this disconnect has really led to a lot less sales going on in the real estate market. In addition to that, sellers are not only trying to get the most money for their home, but they're still thinking that they are going to have a buyer who is going to waive an inspection period or waive an appraisal contingency. And while those things were normal a year ago, they're not really happening anymore, but sellers are still kind of slow to figure this out in many cases. So when buyers are making offers that have a normal 5 to 7 day inspection period and a normal 21-day appraisal contingency, it's kind of making sellers surprised. It's surprising sellers. It's making them realize that they need to kind of come down with their expectations. And this disconnect is something that's still happening. And as time progresses, sellers are kind of coming to the realization, but we're really not quite there yet. We still need to see some correction in the market, and we still need to see some sellers kind of coming down with their expectations for what they can get for their home. And then, of course, there's the dreaded crash talk. Everybody is wanting to know, is the housing market going to crash? Like home values are going down every month in Metro Atlanta. It's been pretty regular for the last at least 6 months, but everybody wants to know, like, if I buy a home today, does that mean that the home value is going to be even less in 6 months? You know, are we headed for a market crash where the value of the home drops $100,000 or even $200,000? And I think it's a totally justifiable thing to worry about as we're seeing home values continuing to go down. And it really is looking less and less like it's a good situation for buyers. But the housing market here in Atlanta has really started to shift quite a bit in the last few weeks. We're really seeing some interesting things happening in the housing market really since like the beginning of January, right around the turn of the new year. And so things are really starting to shape up a little bit differently for buyers in the last few weeks to a month. And so that's something that I think we really need to talk about, because these differences in the housing market are really something that can make or break an experience for a buyer. These next few points that I'm going to tell you about really are going to make a big difference for buyers and can really give a buyer a huge advantage when it comes to buying a home in Metro Atlanta. So here are 4 things that I've been seeing in the housing market in the last few weeks that can really give the buyers an advantage in 2023. While interest rates are 6.5%, and that's certainly higher than it was a year ago, that's actually a little bit less than it was a few months ago. Around the middle of October, interest rates reached about 7.5%, but today, at the beginning of February, interest rates are to 6.5, maybe even as low as 6.25. And that's a huge difference, especially as the Federal Reserve continues to raise the prime interest rates. Mortgage rates are not following suit and they are declining. And so we're down to about 6.5. And hopefully, as the spring comes along and as more buyers come along into the housing market, ideally we'll see the interest rates go down even farther, which will really help out buyers and could very much give the buyers an advantage. According to Mortgage News Daily, for a 30-year fixed rate, we're looking at about 6.4% interest rate, and for a 15-year fixed rate, we're looking at about 5.3%. And for a 30-year jumbo loan, it's going to be about 5.75%. So this decline in interest rates is certainly a good sign and hopefully means that we're going to see more buyers coming on the market. The average sales price in Atlanta continues to come down. We were last year in the middle of the year somewhere around 420, 425 for an average sales price in Metro Atlanta. Today we're at 385,000 for the average sales price. Compare this to last month where we were at 390 and the month before where it was 395. So what we've been seeing for the last few months is a decline of about $5,000 for the average sales price in Metro Atlanta. And as these home values go down, this is really a good news for buyers. It's important to note, though, that as more buyers enter the market trying to buy a home, it's very possible that we can see that decline in average sales price turn around. Probably somewhere around the spring, we'll see those average sales numbers starting to go up. And then another thing that can really give the buyers an advantage in the housing market this year is going to be the average days on market. The average amount of days that a listing was on the market in November of 2022 was 18 days. In December of 2022, it was 20 days. And then last month in January, we saw an average days on market of 30 days. So that is a really big increase in the amount of time that the listings are staying on the market. Now, something that I think we're going to see in the coming up months, especially in the spring and summer, is that I believe we're going to see the move-in ready homes go off the market a lot faster than the homes that are not quite as move-in ready. Last year, it really didn't matter if the home was move-in ready or not, or had problems, or no matter what it was, every house went off the market really fast. But I think with more buyers coming on the market during the spring, what we're going to see is that the move-in ready homes, I think, will last about 1 week on the market. And then the ones that are not quite move-in ready could last months on the market. So something to keep in mind, the move-in ready homes are going to have more competition among buyers. But if you're looking for homes that are not quite move-in ready or willing to put a little bit of work into those homes, you can really get those homes for a much better deal than the ones that are move-in ready. Typically, what I tell clients is that a home that has been on the market for 7 days or less, it's really hard to make offers less than the list price. But the homes that have been on the market for 14 days or more, a month or 2 months, you can certainly offer less than the list price. So something to give the buyers an advantage here is maybe going for the homes that don't quite have that move-in ready feel and maybe need a little bit of work. You can really get a deal on those homes. And then another way that the buyers can have the advantage in the housing market in 2023 is the average sold price to list price. Right now, what we're seeing is that most of the listings are selling for about 95 to 100% of the list price. So when the seller puts their home on the market at $500,000, the average home is selling for about 95% of that list price. And again, this is going to fall in the category of whether or not that home is move-in ready or not move-in ready. It's really going to be the ones that are not move-in ready that will get a sold price less than the list price, but the ones that are move-in ready are going to get a little bit more than the list price. So something to consider if you are going to be buying a home in 2023. So we're seeing interest rates kind of come down a little bit in the last couple months, and we're also seeing home values continuing to decline. And this really could be super beneficial for the buyers in the housing market this year. So here are 3 neighborhoods in Metro Atlanta that have excellent home values, excellent school districts, and home values are still dropping a little bit. This first neighborhood is the Windward neighborhood in Alpharetta and is certainly one of the most sought after neighborhoods in all of Metro Atlanta. Most of the homes in Windward were built in the late 80s and the early 90s, and the average size home in Windward is from 3,500 square feet to 5,500 square feet. Most of the homes in Windward are on about a half of an acre, and the school district for the Windward community is Lake Windward Elementary School, Webbridge Middle School, and Alpharetta High School. The Windward community has a super elaborate HOA with tons of tennis courts and a pool and a golf course, and is really one of the highlights of the Windward community. The average home value in Windward ranges from $650,000 to $1 million. And then this next neighborhood is the Glen Abbey neighborhood, also in Alpharetta, right off of Kimball Bridge Road. Most of the homes in this neighborhood were built in the late 90s, early 2000s, and the average size home in Glen Abbey ranges from 4,500 square feet to 6,000 square feet. The average lot size in this neighborhood is a half of an acre to 3/4 of an acre, and the schools for Glen Abbey are New Prospect Elementary School, Webbridge Middle School, and Alpharetta High School. The HOA includes a pool and tennis courts, and the average home value in Glen Abbey ranges from $900,000 to $1.2 million. And then this next neighborhood is the English Oaks subdivision, which is in Kennesaw, and it's right off of Giles Road. Most of the homes in this neighborhood were built in the early 90s. The average size home in English Oaks ranges from 1,500 square feet to 2,000 square feet. The average lot size is about a quarter of an acre, and the schools that are associated with this subdivision are Kennesaw Elementary School, Autry Middle School, and North Cobb High School. This neighborhood also has a pool and tennis courts, and the average home value in this neighborhood ranges from $350,000 to $400,000. So overall, while the last year in the housing market has looked terrible for buyers and the interest rates going up, I really think that we're starting to see a turn in the housing market. The last few weeks have been excellent when it comes to interest rates coming down and home values also still coming down, really creating a perfect scenario for buyers. Of course, if you're thinking about moving to Atlanta and you want to know more about what it's like to live there, click on this video where I talk about the best suburbs of Metro Atlanta.